What moment made you say, "Yep, I'm definitely dead," but survived with no major injuries?
I was driving home from college on one of those highways with only one lane in either direction and no shoulder. A guy in the oncoming lane didn't see me as I was in a small car. He thought he could pass 4 18-wheelers in one go and pulled into my lane going at least 90. There was nowhere for me to go. He flew off into the ditch to avoid hitting me head-on, likely did severe damage to his car, but I lived.
I was drunk and running in the woods when bam, barbed wire fence straight to the throat. The last thing I remember, I couldn't breathe and was passing out and there was blood squirting from my neck. Woke up an hour later and walked home looking like a murder victim.
Boyfriend finally woke me up shortly after we had fallen asleep in a small upstairs bedroom that had a smoldering fire. After we collapsed on the floor and couldn't find the door that was not even 5 feet away, we kept hitting walls and corners and started to not comprehend anything. After feeling like I was baking in an oven, I laid my head down on the floor thinking I'd never see my son again and how sad it was to die. It felt like eternity and felt very lonely. My boyfriend somehow found his phone on the floor, called 911. Fire department showed up in what felt like 2 seconds but couldn't break down the front door. They shined the flashlight up to window so he could kick out the AC unit, which he did. They finally came upstairs and we crawled to them and they took us straight to the burn unit since they didn't know what shape we were in. I'm pretty sure the entire hospital toured through our room since they've never seen anyone make it out and look the way we did.
I ate one of those Brock's oval-shaped hard candies. Think they were called Sparklets. At home alone when I was 6. Got stuck in my throat. I stood there in shock for a few seconds as I started to realize I couldn't breathe. I ran crazily around the room and ended up colliding hard into the back of the couch, which caused the candy to go flying out. Best accidental Heimlich ever. Typo edit.
Had a paintball fight on Christmas morning with 2 cousins and their neighbor kid at around 13 years old with our brand new guns we got as gifts. The neighbor got mad, ran home, came back with a shotgun, and pointed at my face. All I remember is looking at the ground and waiting to die.
I'm a skier. On a few occasions I have caught an edge at a pretty high speed, 50 plus mph or more. That moment when you feel both skis leave the ground when they're not supposed to is horrifying. Somehow I've never had anything more than some moderate whiplash and a sprained wrist, knock on wood.
I had leg cramp and a momentary blackout when swimming in a diving pool when I was 16. I was really active that I overexert my limit. Surprisingly, I didn't really panicked. Just the dreadful thought, oh crap, I'm fricked. Funny thing is that I didn't really wingle my hands out of the pool panickingly like I usually see in the TV, just silently sinking. Good thing the pool guard on duty noticed me and went for my rescue by pulling me out. Really wish I thanked the guard more that he saved me instead of me cluelessly sitting outside the lobby after the accident.
Tire popped going over a 2-lane road with steep drops on both sides. My car jerked to the side hard, and my car went sideways. Half my car hung over the side and luckily it's low so it bottomed out. I climbed into the back seat and jumped out the back door. Some dude in a truck pulled me out and I drove on a flat to the other side and swapped my tire out.
Every time my heart does the pinch thing and starts beating irregularly.
The hood on my car came open at 60 on the highway and completely blocked my sight in heavy traffic. I panicked and jerked the wheel a little bit, which caused me to fishtail a little bit. I crap you not, my driver's education teacher's words from 5 years prior rang in my head to lean down and look through the space at the bottom of the hood. I pulled over and used some wire I found in the trunk to keep the hood closed. Anytime you close your hood, make sure it latches securely by pulling on the hood like you're trying to lift the front of the car off the ground.
My friend and I just spent a few days at a beach shack. My friend just got her P plates. She was super excited so she wanted to drive us home. This was one of her first times driving alone. Being 17, we didn't really see an issue. I rang my dad beforehand and told him I was getting a lift. He said, I don't think you should do that. I can come pick you up. I can drive some of the girls home too. I think you guys should wait until she's had more experience. Of course, being 17, thinking I knew everything, I said it was fine and I was hopping in her car. We were on our way home, playing music and chatting. There were 5 17-year-olds in this car. I was sitting behind the driver's seat. My friend pulls out onto a 2-1 expressway, from a country road, like an intersection. We notice she's turned the wrong way and tell her to make a U-turn. She pulls to the side and decides to go for it, through 2 lanes. She didn't check her mirrors properly and a large truck was coming up behind us. My friend got frightened and put her foot on the brake in the middle of both lanes. We were all screaming at her to keep driving. But she was frozen. I remember, it was like slow motion. I looked at every single one of my friends. We all kind of shared a moment of fear. Like, this is it I guess. The exchanged looks haunt me tbh. We could hear the truck horn blaring at us. I looked out my window to the truck driving toward us. I locked eyes with the truck driver. Luckily the truck stopped about 5 meters away from us. She pulled away and was really upset. The car was silent the entire way back. It was honestly the scariest moment. I am from a really small town and I think losing 5 people at once would really rock it. Seeing my friends' faces in that moment, it was actually horrific. I did have a moment of, okay, here comes the truck. It was oddly peaceful. After that day I have a real understanding that I'm mortal and can go at any minute. Oh, and to trust my dad.
Went white water rafting on the Gali River and my raft flipped on Pillow Rock, one of the most famous Class V rapids. Scariest moment of my life, but, other than unexpectedly swallowing some water and almost vomiting, I came out completely unharmed.
Oh, I actually have a story that fits. I was coming home from a party at 2 a.m. in 2016, and made a conscious choice to drive through town rather than take the big highway that skirts the city limits. It would add like 10 minutes to the trip, but hey, it was the first time I'd been back in ages. That decision literally almost killed me. Not even 5 minutes after that, the 3-lane highway, really just a wide road, passed in front of a mall, and there was a signal light there. Well, some drunk idiot decided to turn right into the mall from the far left lane, and I was in the middle lane. I had absolutely no time to stop, so I slammed into the side of his car at 65 miles per hour. I remembered yelling, "Crap TT," and trying to keep control of the wheels to get the car off the road onto the grass before I blacked out for a few min. The airbag and the seatbelt combined had fractured my sternum, which took the air out of my lungs and made me faint, I guess. But it didn't feel like I woke up, more so like my vision came back into focus and I was aware. But those few moments I was still kind of conscious and in immense pain. Worst I've ever felt in my life. I hurt from the skin on the soles of my feet to my scalp. Every single inch was in pain and I was like, so I'm dead. This is my body telling me I'm dead. So when I came to, heat hit me cause my car was fricked and the engine was as hot as standing in a fire. So I was convinced my car was about to go up. It didn't, so I tried to get out, but the door was wedged shut from the crash and I started to panic. I put my back against the passenger seat and kicked the door over and over until it opened and climbed out. Every single police officer, EMT, and even the tow truck guy, took one look at my car and told me, you shouldn't have walked away from that crash at all. The fact that all you have is a fracture and some lacerations is a literal miracle. So yeah, that's how I almost died and thought for sure I was dead but got lucky.
Parachute deployed but failed to open. That was one of those moments, then training kicked in. Cutaway failed shoot, deploy secondary. But for a brief moment life was about to be over in my mind.
I was driving down a highway, doing 65 miles per hour, and suddenly my car started to shake. I tapped the brakes in reflex and my entire car flipped 180 degrees. I'm now facing oncoming traffic, including a semi-truck. I was so close I couldn't see the driver compartment. I screamed and jerked the wheel, bringing me in front of a sedan with 2 people screaming as they watched me appear out of nowhere. I kept screaming and floored the gas pedal, made it to the side of the road and cried for a long time. I had blown a rear tire. Hitting the brakes was a terrible choice.
I was a senior in high school, and the student club I was in organized an unofficial beach trip towards the end of the year. No teachers or official permission, leaving me and a few other seniors in charge of supervising everything. After a couple hours worth of fun, one of the other students came running up to me and said that 3 of the younger members of the club had been swept out by a riptide and couldn't get back towards the shore. Me and 2 other of the older students, all experienced swimmers, immediately went to go help them. My friends got 2 of the 3 kids in trouble and started guiding them parallel to the shore to get them out of the current, but the guy the first went for was panicking, barely staying above the water, and started dragging me down with him almost immediately. I yelled for people to get a lifeguard and tried to keep both of us afloat, but after a few minutes, maybe 5, maybe 10, it felt like forever, I was getting exhausted, having trouble keeping both of us above the water, and I couldn't see anyone coming to the rescue. I started getting big mouthfuls of water and my leg muscles were starting to cramp up, and I remember thinking, holy crap, I might actually die right here, right now, as the current started pulling us further and further away from where everyone was. Thankfully for everyone involved, one of the students on the beach had flagged down a couple of surfers, who made their way out to where we were as quickly as they could and hauled first the younger student and then me onto the front of their boards and took us back to shore. I'll always be thankful and appreciative for those strangers who put themselves in the dangerous position of rescuing 2 drowning swimmers.
When I was 18, I was driving through an intersection with the right-of-way, going 70 km/h, or 43.5 miles per hour. A man in a blue Mazda 3 hatchback decided to run the red light turning left. He was so close to me that I could see the whites of his eyes, and in a split second I thought, I'm about to T-bone this guy, drive a side door and he is going to die. Instinctively I yanked on the wheel and swerved to the right and instantly went over the curb and off the road, onto someone's lawn. I slammed the brakes, but because I was on grass the tires locked and the car kept momentum. I went through their wooden fence and garden, and straight into the brick wall on the side of their house. As soon as I went off the road, I 100% thought I was going to die. My life didn't flash before my eyes, but people close to me did. It could have only been a second or two, but time seemed to slow down and my brain was racing. I thought about how my girlfriend would react, what my parents would say, what my friends would think, etc. When the car hit the wall, it punched a few bricks out of place and the entire front end of the vehicle caved in. The windows shattered, the tires exploded, the doors bent into an L shape and the car started to fill with smoke. However, the radio was still playing Vicarious by Tool. I was concussed by the airbag, broke my nose, jaw, 2 fingers, had whiplash and my left knee was dislocated. I was in shock and couldn't believe that what just happened was real, and so I just sat there kinda freaking out. A group of parents from a birthday party across the street saw what happened and ran to the car and pulled me from it as they thought it was about to catch fire. The man in the Mazda 3 drove away. If it wasn't for the testimony of those parents who told the police they witnessed the man run the intersection and that I didn't do anything wrong, I would have been completely liable for all of the property damage, and additionally insurance would not have replaced the vehicle as it would have been deemed at fault. I am glad nobody else got hurt.
I own a 65 Classic Mustang which I enjoy driving anywhere it can go. I once took it up a large mountain with a group of friends. The roads weren't steep or especially dangerous, but there was danger present because of how high it was. We made it up the mountain with no issues and stopped at bar at the top where my friends got plastered. I didn't drink because I was the designated driver. Before I continue, I need to clarify that the brakes on a stock Classic Mustang from the 60s era need to be primed before use. Basically, you have to hit the brakes twice before they work. On the trip down, the brakes cut out and stopped working. I primed the brakes over and over but they didn't engage. The parking brake hadn't been working the past month and was going to be replaced that Monday. I soon lost control of the car and we started to barrel down the road. We turned a shallow right corner and saw a long road that ended with a sharp turn. At that moment I thought I was going to die and take my friends with me. They had no clue they were plastered in the back. Luckily the brakes re-engaged halfway down the road and we managed to turn the corner. It has been 4 months and I haven't touched that car. To this day my friends have no clue what almost happened.
I was driving on the turnpike in my Mazda 3 in the hard rain. It was 3 lanes and I was in the left lane doing 55, and then I hit standing water and hydroplaned. I did a full 360 spin across all 3 lanes of traffic and ended up in the shoulder stopped. I didn't hit anyone or anything, no one hit me, and one car was so scared with me they also pulled over, but didn't check on me. To this day I'm still a bit scared in the rain.
I lost control of my car as a teen, speeding on backcountry roads at like 3 a.m. Unlikely to be other traffic at that time. I was doing about 70 miles per hour when my tire caught the edge of the road and I lost control. I was spinning around in the middle of the road and crap just waiting on a tree. Ended up just rolling backwards into a gully and getting stuck. No car damage or anything. Pretty crazy to say the least.
When I was about 16, I was mowing some lawns over the summer to make a little extra cash. One guy hired me to mow his lawn. He seemed nice enough, like a kindly old hippie who lived alone. I get to his house, and he invites me in to give me some yard equipment. Once I step inside, he closes and locks the door behind me. He says, just locking the door to keep the bugs out. Wait, what? He leads me through his house, and starts saying all this weird stuff. I don't know what you've heard about me around the neighborhood, but none of it's true. I'm straight as an arrow. We get to his basement door. I keep the mower in the basement. Probably should have hightailed it out of there then, but as a polite teenager, I followed him down the stairs into the dark basement. Once I get down in the basement, and my eyes adjust to the darkness, I start to get really scared. The entire basement has been plastered in 1970s Playboy nude centerfolds, but they've all been chopped up, missing heads, missing limbs. That's when I turn around, and see the guy emerging from the darkness wielding a machete. That's when I was sure I was going to die. I just didn't know if he would hack me up right then and there, or lock me in the basement and torture me for a few days. My fight or flight response was about to kick in. But then he hands me the machete, and tells me to use it to cut back the kudzu. Huge relief. I mowed his lawn and cut back his kudzu, and the whole time I could see him watching me out the window. Finished as fast I could, and got the hell out of there. He called me a few times in the next weeks to mow his lawn again, but I never picked. Eventually, he moved away. To this day, not sure if he was an actual serial killer, or just a kooky old man who didn't understand how creepy he was.
I was pregnant and got meningitis. At work I fell ill and they sent me home because apparently I looked gray. That night my head felt like it was going to explode to the point I started slamming my head against the wall to relieve it. My husband was absolutely terrified and wanted to call an ambulance, but I refused, thinking it was a bad headache. Fast forward to things getting worse and to being taken to the hospital and them saying it's probably a migraine. I have migraines and this was no migraine. A quick-witted nurse saw how confused I was. Couldn't remember my birthday or our son's b-day or even how to sign my name, and she took my temp and did a urine test. As she's taking my temp she goes, whoa, have you taken your temp before? Your temp is 104. Suddenly all these alarms go off and I can't move. My body felt like I was locked up in a giant cramp. I was having a fever-induced seizure but was conscious for the first bit. I saw just a storm of DRS and nurses and equipment rushing in the assessment room. I thought, OMG, my husband is going to get a call that I am gone or a vegetable and my son won't have his mother and this kid in me won't know life. Then nothingness. Lucky for me they just covered me in ice to bring down my temp that stopped the seizure. They took me to ICU and sent me for an MRI, and all I remember is them telling me they may have put me in a coma, and do I want my life to take priority over the life of the baby? Sitting in that ICU room in total isolation, they didn't know if it was bacterial or viral for a day or two, so no one could visit. I had a lot to think about and really had to come to terms that I may not make it out of this and my baby may not either. You have to make your peace and stop fearing death and kinda get to work. I wrote letters to loved ones thanks to a very brave and kind nurse's help. Happy to report it ended up being viral meningitis. I fought hard and both myself and now my perfectly healthy 3-year-old son are doing great. Still have the letters in my safe and hope I never need them handed out. It was a long road to recovery, but I've never taken my health or life for granted again.
When I accidentally got drugged at a party because I drank the drink of a female friend, I left for home on my own and fell from my bike 5 times and landed in the bushes next to the road. I threw up everything I had inside me and was so disoriented that I couldn't get up anymore. I slept trough the night in the bushes while it was 13°C out, and had multiple occasions where I thought I would die, called emergency numbers multiple times but they wouldn't come, and eventually got picked up by a taxi chauffeur that brought me home after laying in a wet bush for 8 hours. I couldn't leave my bed for 3 days after that. Only thing I'm happy about in that experience is that the female friend didn't drink it and got home safely.
In one of my first solo flights, when Cessna's pilot door opened during a turn and my belt was the only thing between my arse and the ground, 2,000 feet away.
I survived a car crash that wrecked my car. Rolled twice. Landed upside down. Learned the hard way that I didn't have airbags. Or at least they didn't deploy. Did have my seatbelt on though. That probably saved me. Paramedic said he hadn't seen a wreckage like that and have it end well. Not even a hairline fracture.
I was running down a hill after rain when I was a kid, about 8, and slipped and fell. I jarred my spine pretty bad and couldn't move my arms or legs. I couldn't speak. All I could do was suck in air, whilst making some pretty horrific noises in the process. The teacher sat with me and shooed away all the gawking kids while she rubbed my back and said nice things. No idea why nobody called an ambulance. Honestly, one of the most terrifying hours of my life, though I cannot explain how happy I was when my limbs started working again. Also, when I was about 23, there's an ocean pool near where I live, man-made, and during big seas it basically turns into a vortex of hell. Some friends and I went down there and arrived when it looked fairly placid. We jumped straight in and paddled around, as you do. Then the next set of waves started coming in. On the ocean side of the pool, the waves were trying to suck us back out to sea. On the cliffside, it was trying to turn us into mincemeat. I got halfway across the pool when I realized a friend of mine with no experience with ocean swimming was struggling, so went over to help. I made him swim to the middle of the pool with me to wait for the set to pass, and we managed to get out once it calmed down again. There were some bruises and cuts, but way better than the alternative.